In this video, I just want to talk about fighting fair. So I see a lot of people that don't fight fair, and I've been guilty myself. But fighting fair is important. And I'm not talking about altercations, right? I'm not talking about a fist fight. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about fighting with your words. And so I've been married for 20 years, and I know that we've had a fight or two, right? And I've noticed that it is important that you fight fair, that you consider the other person. So just think about some of these things when you have a disagreement, or you're arguing with your partner, or something's going on. So it is important that you think about the other person. That's very important. Think about their point of view. But just some of these things just to be thinking about. So the first thing is consider the other person, right? Consider the other person's point of view. Like, put yourself in their shoes. How do they feel? I think probably the most important out of all these is take 5 minutes and walk away, or however long it takes you to cool off. Just take 5 minutes or however long and just go and cool off, because you don't want to say something that you're going to regret. It is important that when you're in a relationship that you act maturely, right? That you're not acting like a child, throwing temper tantrums, saying things that you're going to regret, yelling, cursing, screaming, doing all that. You don't want to do that in a relationship. You want to make sure that you are fighting fairly. And so, first of all, take 5. Second of all, put yourself in the other person's shoes. Think about how they might be feeling. Think about their point of view. Think about what they might be saying is correct. Think about you might be wrong. So it's important that when we fight fairly, and we stop. A lot of times, if we don't stop and take 5, we will say something that we're going to regret. We will, say things that we can't be sorry for. And so I always think about is, if you would not want what you're saying plastered all over a billboard or across the New York Times, then you probably shouldn't say it. The second thing I think about is, if it's something that I can't say I'm sorry for, then I don't want to say that either. So just think about that when you're fighting, that you make sure that you don't say something that you're going to regret. Don't say something that you wouldn't want plastered over a billboard. I do think that even though you take the 5 minutes or however long you need to cool off, that you should talk about it within 48 hours. Because what happens is we end up in relationships that over time we hate the other person because we've let resentment fester under the surface. Things that we wanted to say, we didn't say. We were meaning to say, we thought we were waiting to the perfect time, and the perfect time never came. So think about having that discussion within 48 hours. But I believe in writing things down, putting it down on paper, saying whatever you want to say on paper, getting all the anger, the frustration out before you talk to the person that you're in a relationship with. Because typically, we can be petty on paper, but we can be petty if we go right into it emotionally. We let our emotions get the best of us. So think about taking 5, writing down what you want to say, what really needs to be said. Do it within 48 hours if at all possible. Don't say something you're going to regret. I can say this over and over again, because when we fight, typically we say things that we regret. So we got to make sure that we are calm and we've taken the emotion out of it, that we can talk like an adult and not be childish. So just think about that. Don't say something that you're going to regret. The next thing is, see it from the other person's point of view. See it from the other person's point of view. This is something else I can say over and over again, is that we always think that we're right. We can go and tell somebody else what happened in the disagreement, but we always make ourselves look like superstars, right? We don't think about what we're doing that's wrong. We don't consider that we could have been the problem the whole time. So you got to make sure that you're thinking about it from the other person's point of view. Think about what you could have done better. Think about what it is that you did that was wrong. The next one is be quick to forgive. So we hold grudges way too long. It's okay to be upset about something initially, till you calm down, but be quick to forgive. Don't hold something over somebody's head for a day or 2 days, a week. It could be deadly for your health. It affects us. We get chronic illnesses because we hold on to things. We let things fester. We're upset about something for a long time. We don't forgive, and it affects our health, our mental and our physical health. So be quick to forgive. Think about this. I always say, if you want to be forgiven, you should forgive other people. So consider forgiving somebody very quickly. And it doesn't mean that you're going to stay in a relationship with somebody or you're going to let them abuse you. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that you should still extend forgiveness. Let things go quickly. we oftentimes we can find ourselves, we say we forgive, but we didn't forgive. We harbor this unforgiveness. We bring things up over and over again that we say that we've forgiven. So we got to make sure that we are not harboring unforgiveness. We got to make sure that we're quick to let things go. Once you say that they're forgiven, let it go. And I'm not saying forget, because sometimes it's impossible to forget. We never forget. But we got to be quick to let things go, that we don't continue to rehash old stuff, that we don't think about stuff from the past. Because if we do that, we think about things from the past, we constantly, that's how we treat the person, like the stuff that happened that we're thinking about that happened in the past. So let things go quickly. The next one is be willing to compromise. And a lot of times we want it our way or the highway. We want it our way, or we give the person the silent treatment. We want it our way, or we end the relationship. But sometimes it is important that we consider compromising. Like, how can this relationship continue to flourish? Can you both, give in some way? Can you make it a win-win for both people? Can both people compromise? Can you sit down and say, okay, what about this? Can we do this? Or what would it take to make you happy? And you tell the other person what would it take to make you happy? Or how can you resolve what happened? But compromise is so important in a relationship. It can't always be your way. It can't always be the other person's way. You got to think about, how can we compromise on this? The next thing is realize that both of you all are human. And oftentimes we realize, we think that they're not human. We want them to be perfect, and every human is imperfect. We're going to make mistakes. So just realize, cut the person some slack, realize they're human, they made a mistake. If you want to continue a relationship, if they apologize, and even if they don't apologize, I think it's important that you forgive. But it is very important that you realize that this person is human. They make mistakes. They could have had a bad day. Something could happen before you encountered them. So you just got to make sure that you realize that they're human. And just like they made a mistake, whatever it is that you're upset with them about, we do the same thing. You do the exact same thing. And then the last thing is set boundaries. So whatever happened in a relationship, if a boundary is necessary, set a boundary, enforce the boundary, have consequence to that boundary. And so it's important that people know how to treat us, and we teach people how to treat us. And so we don't say anything, people think that it's okay. And if you don't believe me, just watch for the next week. Watch how people treat you. And then if you let things go, watch how they continue to treat you. So you want to make sure that people are treating you the way you want to be treated. And sometimes people don't know. So we got to tell them, we got to teach them how to treat us. And so if you don't say anything, people don't know. But it is important to fight fair. Oftentimes we fight below the belt. We say things we shouldn't say. We do things to people that we shouldn't do. But just think about it today, how to fight fair, how to be mature in a disagreement. We don't have to, do all this unnecessary stuff, yelling and cursing. That is so unnecessary. We can sit down like two adults and talk through things. So think about that today. Think about, how can you fight fair? What can you implement right away to fight fair?